funds for the Rainforest Foundation UK, all to highlight the fact that our actions are interconnected and have an impact no matter where we are in the world. Hopefully that then sets a little bit of a scene as to the thought process behind EPIC. And the journey for EPIC started about 4 years ago now. I've lost a year with wow. Things that have been going on. About 4 years ago, where I started to take a sort of a reflection on myself and sort of my role in this amazing planet that we have, and start to think about what my impact was on people and the planet around me. And I started looking for new ways to be more sustainable and ethical. And it was a challenge, and started to talk to a couple of peers and realized that if it was a challenge for myself, there would be others that perhaps more of your average consumer that are in a similar position and need that helping hand. And that's where that was the seed that planted EPIC. And we just felt that people that wanted to shop more ethically and sustainably should be encouraged and motivated to do so.
Super interesting background and epic attempt biking that far. I wish you all the luck in the world. That's incredible, and look forward to following along. I guess sort of before we dive into the technology and what Epic Impact does, I did want to ask you just about the first couple of weeks with the F10 Batch 7, some interesting peers and some interesting conversations. Just wanted to get your feedback on the first couple of weeks.
It's been energetic. It's kind of that if you're one for poetry, I think the fact that it started around the start of summer in the UK and some good weather and sunshine, there's more than a coincidence in that. It's been thoroughly enjoyable, really interesting to see such a collective of passionate entrepreneurs that are looking to do something differently and change the world, whether it's for the good of the planet or to make life easier for businesses or just generally for individuals. And I think the attitude and the optimism and the motivation to make a difference is a dangerous word in the current climate, but it's infectious. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of that group. Delighted to also be part of the New Energy Nexus family as well.
I couldn't agree more. I'm really energized and excited for the 4 climate fintechs that are in that batch, and all of the sort of programming that's to come over the next months. I will sort of ask about your company now, and you describe yourself as a suite of tools that enables brands to build long-term relationships with customers based on shared values. So tell us a little bit about what that means. What is the experience like for a customer when they use your tool?
Of course, and I think it's important to first of all highlight that there are 2 sides to every relationship. And there's obviously, we've got the merchants and brands on one side, and we've got the consumers on the other. And obviously our mission is to motivate conscious consumers to make a change in their consumption habits to be more ethical and sustainable. And so the tools that we use all drive towards that mission to motivate the consumers to do good. So on the merchant side of things, we have built a loyalty rewards platform. It's designed very much with the purpose-led new wave of businesses, that the merchants and brands, to help them to enter into a marketplace, whether they are an e-commerce business or a bricks and mortar business, to offer not just a loyalty rewards platform, but ways in which rewards can be earned and used that encourage long-term behaviors that have a positive impact. And we focused on values because we believe that's going to be a key USP for businesses. As more and more purpose-led businesses come to the fore, it's going to be what is their driver for change. On the consumer side, we have a mobile app, and that mobile app acts as a directory of ethical and sustainable businesses, which we have researched and vetted and verified, so that when a consumer looks and finds those merchants, they know that they can be trusted. We make it possible for the user to filter that list of that directory of merchants and brands based upon the values that are important to them, whether that's climate action, ocean conservation, supporting the local community. They can find the merchants that will match with their values, and therefore hopefully make it easier for them not only to discover, but then to convert into paying customers. We also have a wallet for the reward points that consumers can earn when they shop at these merchants and brands. And we also have that connected into open banking technology, so that we can reward our consumers in real time whenever they make a purchase. Furthermore, by having that information on their transaction data, we can educate them and inform them of what their personal impact is, whether that's their carbon footprint or contribution to the values that are important to them. Then once they've earned their rewards, we want to encourage them to do more good. And so we give them options for the short, medium and long term for positive action. First of all, by being able to donate their rewards to good causes. Secondly, to contribute to carbon offset projects from around the world. And thirdly, something we admittedly are working on is to use the reward points to invest in an impact investment portfolio. Ultimately, taking that user on a journey from that first step of doing good into a more ethical and sustainable lifestyle, so that by 2030, 100% of our members' household spending can be seen and demonstrated to be having a positive impact on the planet.
I really appreciate the holistic vision. You know, there's a number of components there, and maybe we can dissect them a bit. And I think maybe core to what you're building is this question around the challenges that consumers face when they're trying to incorporate more ethical or sustainable decision-making into their consumption habits. What are those challenges, and how are you addressing those?
Sure. So if I can come back to the experience that I had 4 years ago now, I think the starting point is confusion and awareness of, well, one person says his company is good and doing good, but someone else says, well, actually, if you think about it, they're not doing good. And you start to get these conflicting messages, which really doesn't help the average consumer. And that's the key thing that to bear in mind. You know, what is the lifestyle of the average consumer? They are focused by challenges of convenience and affordability at the end of the day. That's their drivers. Food, shelter, warmth, and fun. That's what's driving the majority of their purchases. So when they're trying to make a change to that, it needs to be as easy as possible. So getting those conflicting messages is a hindrance to their journey. Secondly, there's a lack of awareness. You know, you've had these big companies that say they do one thing. Perhaps they now use recycled packaging and maybe their deliveries are carbon neutral. But on the other hand, you get an investigative report which discovers that they're destroying millions of items of electronics and products because they haven't been sold and it's been completely wasted. So it's not knowing what these businesses are up to. Thirdly, when it comes to the supply chain, you know, you look at something is presented in marketing in glory, it looks brilliant, but what you don't realize is what goes on behind the scenes to get that product to your door, and the environment that perhaps it's been built on, the corners that may have been cut, the deals that may have been positive for the retailer, or the brand, but not necessarily the producer. And it's about starting to create that fairer society. And finally, if I may, there's conflicting messages from those influencing bodies out there. You know, you have large present voices that say, yes, we need to start to make this change on one hand, but then a couple of weeks later or months down the line, you find out that they themselves are anything but ethical and sustainable and doing good for the planet. So all of this combined, you get this challenging message to the consumer that is just trying to get on and enjoy their life. And therefore, you know, it's trying to make it really simple. And let's have a standard message. Let's give an environment that is on track with the intention and is helpful and motivating to the consumers.
Sure. I am curious, how do you compile and collate all of the data that goes into some of the assessments, the measuring, you know, a roll-up score of some kind? How do you distill that information and provide actionable insights to someone who might not be so familiar with that world?
Sure, and I think this is the important bit of working with merchants that truly believe about doing good. And that's part of our vetting process. You know, when we speak to these merchants, how willing are they to back up the claims that they make publicly on their website, and how keen they are to be transparent with their contributions to the values that are important to them. And so by working with those merchants or filtering out those merchants that actually do want to do that, we make it easy for them to report upon their own contributions. And then we can break that down from a company level to a product level, so that when a consumer makes a purchase, we can identify the proportion of contribution that their spend is having towards that business's impact, and then attribute that to the individual. So that ultimately, you know, at the end of the week, end of the month, and this is our vision that we're working towards, the consumer will be able to see a breakdown of their spending based upon contribution to the causes that are important to them. So again, it's about that collaboration and willingness to be transparent all the way from the merchant through to the consumer.
Super interesting. And I do see that you're using a component called Coin. Could you talk a little bit about Coin and its role in your business?
Of course, Coin is our digital rewards currency. It's the oil to our engine, if you will, although that's not a good turn of phrase given what we're talking about. But let's move on from that origins. So it's essentially the rewards currency. So when a consumer shops with our directory of merchants and brands, they will receive Coin as their reward. Coin, just a little bit of background, comes from a Greek word called koinonia, which means a gift jointly contributed. So our vision for that is Coin is a gift to the planet jointly contributed by consumers and merchants. With that Coin, the users then got the freedom to choose how they donate or use their rewards, whether it's to make future purchases from our community of merchants, to donate to good causes, or to contribute to those carbon offsetting projects I mentioned before. But ultimately, you know, it's points with purpose, and we want to get to the point, the point, I'll stick with that word, where we can show that for every coin earned and for every coin spent, this is the positive impact that someone is having on the planet, whether that's locally, nationally, or internationally.
Now, I am curious just about the merchants that you've onboarded. Maybe you can give us some examples, and also interested to hear what that experience and that conversation was like, onboarding them. And you know, do you feel that there's a clear pathway to incentivize more of them to join?
Of course. So, I mean, stepping back to that piece, our target I mentioned at the start, where we are focused on household spending as a whole. And that means, you know, breaking down merchants' across your household and what your daily expenditure looks like. It's very easy to perhaps focus on an individual vertical, with fashion being a primary one. But actually, we come back to our purpose of trying to take and instigate an average consumer on their journey to doing good. So let's think about the things that are really easy and repeat purchases that are taking place. And one of the starting points is your home energy. So we need to make it easy for someone to switch from a traditional fossil fuel powered energy provider to one that uses 100% renewable energy. In the UK, the leading provider of that is Ecotricity, and truly honoured that they are part of our community. If I pick out the experience with them, they are a brilliant organisation. They've been doing this for over 25 years now, and they were the first to put in the electric highway, electric vehicle charging points at motorway service stations across the UK. So very much thought leaders in what should be powering the country. And so that was the longest conversation to make sure that we were in line with their ethos, and vice versa. But then once we, could demonstrate that our intentions were honourable, then it's been a positive journey from there. From there, you then think about various household repeat purchases, whether that's in the bathroom, in the kitchen. So you start to look at things like ethical superstores, social supermarket, and looking at how to get those repeat purchases into our baskets. And then you start to look at more of the food items, perhaps, and then you start to look at clothing. And we've got some brilliant brands, especially on the clothing front, that all come from organic cotton, perhaps, for fashionable menswear, or similarly in sportswear, you've got a company that uses recycled plastic that's been taken from ocean and seas and turned that into recyclable activewear. And it just starts to introduce this circular economy into the natural purchasing processes and behaviors of the consumer. And then as you start to speak with those brands, that are, younger and keen to make an impact, it's been a very enjoyable experience for us, educational as well, and invigorating. Just hearing the passion in their voices is just powers you to do more.
I guess just chatting a little bit about consumer behavior, obviously more and more people are interested in this type of consumption. How do you incentivize those who are sort of less ready or less willing to start thinking about this? What sort of incentive structures are there that can be tinkered with or reconfigured to bring on a larger population?
Sure. I think actually it's not just the ones that perhaps are most vocal, it's the other way around. It's not just those that are yet to start on the journey. It's also those that are vocal about it. At the end of the day, we've got 90% of millennials and Gen Z consumers have expressed that they want to shop with brands and merchants that share and epitomize their values. But when it comes down to it, if we think about that demographic and where they're at financially, they're in the early stages of their career. And when they come to make purchases for their day-to-day lives, at the end of the day, convenience and affordability are pretty strong magnets and habits to break. So for us, it is about everyone. But yes, we do focus on the average consumer, but people do need to make that shift. And I think the USP, and I touched on it before, is that values piece, because it's something that someone can interact with. It's tangible, and they can see the impact they're having. And I think that's the most important thing, being able to make something tangible and visible for the users is there. And then to educate and think, well, it's not just about the purchase, it's about other behaviors as well. And if we think about what are things that people can come together around, and connect with, there's a brilliant initiative that I've come across in the UK, which is all about sports clubs and the fan bases of those sports clubs coming together to compete on competitions that show an active, I'll start again, that compete with the number of activities they can do in a week that can earn points for doing good. And it's focused around football. So one of the key things would be, if you play football for your local team, rather than cleaning your football boots in the sink using hot water, capture some rainwater from outside and use that. And those little things that once you get it into their behavior on the non-purchase actions, that will actually make them more likely to think, well, actually, why don't I keep doing good on this journey and make a more ethical and sustainable purchase? So yeah, it's about those things, connecting the need to do good with something that communities are already passionate about. And well, sports is definitely a good thing to get passionate about, but as there are local initiatives, maybe local choirs or local community groups, it's how can you engage them, because the power of community is what's really going to move us forward on having a positive impact.
Thank you, James. I know we're running out of time here. I want to sort of just finish by highlighting, your progress. Sounds like you've got quite a bit of interest in your beta version. You're onboarding more merchants every day, and are a third of the way through raising your seed round. So all very exciting. I guess if you want to just share what you're excited about in the sort of months to come, what should people look out for?
Of course. Well, aside from the opportunity to get out to Zurich as part of the F10 program, I'm very much looking forward to that. So fingers crossed that the travel restrictions are reduced. But from a company perspective, it's really re-engaging with merchants and finding ways to really create a platform that is about social and community. And I think we're approaching quite an important piece towards the end of this year, a trading period for merchants and brands with the November, December festive time, that we're getting ready to make that our big launch. And so the feedback and the community that we're building, both in the UK and internationally, it's staggering how quickly an idea can spread across the world. And you hear of similar initiatives in different parts of the world, but there's always opportunity to launch somewhere else. So it's picking up the conversations to figure out how we can approach the Swiss market, perhaps the Australian market, but most importantly, just get this into the consumer's hands. And we're not far away from moving it from our private beta group to the live public audience. And although there's a little bit of anxiety and stress that's associated with that with every startup, it's by far and away overpowered by the excitement and anticipation of the feedback that's just growing and seeing our app in the hands of people.
Yeah, we're really excited to work with you guys and see what the next few months hold for everyone. I do want to finish and ask the audience if there is any questions you want to ask. Now would be the time. Feel free to submit. We are curious if anyone has any questions, and if not, that's also okay. No pressure. James, really appreciate your participation today. Really hope you can travel to Zurich for the next masterclasses. Hope we can meet in person, of course, and hope that you can close up this seed round in due time.
Thank you very much. So do I. Yes, it's going to be an interesting couple of months, and I look forward to every step that we're going to take on the journey.
We did just get a, let's see here. I have to see if I can pull this up. Is coin a utility token? In other words, does it have fungible value, or does it simply facilitate transactions that fall outside of regulators like the SEC?
Sure. So at the minute, it's a fixed conversion rate. So in the UK, 1 coin equals 1 penny. So the way it works is essentially as cashback, if you will, but it's cashback with purpose. So that when a merchant provides cashback in the form of coin, perhaps they say that we want to give 3% of the transaction back. So the transaction, let's say, was £100. They will give £3 worth back to the customer in the form of coin. The customer can then use that 300 coin, which is worth £3, to generate the discount or the donation, which we handle in the background. So at the minute is something that we do the management of, but where it could potentially evolve into more of a digital token is something that is certainly under consideration and exploration as we mature as a business.
Great. Thank you for the question and the response as well. We are at time, so I think we'll wrap it up there. But again, James, thanks so much for sharing your story. Thanks to the audience for listening in, and hope to see everyone next time on Green Tomorrow. Thanks so much, and take care, everyone.